Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today we're doing a series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, more specifically in this instance the work-in-progress Sega Saturn core and the work-in-progress Princess Crown translation from eadmaster. I featured this on the channel maybe 3 or 4 months ago, but it just recently, a few days ago, updated to the 0.85 revision of the translation, bringing in a ton of new improvements, new text, a lot better formatting, and most importantly, a freeze-free experience on MiSTer FPGA, at least as far as I've gotten in the game and as far as I've asked people. And honestly, Princess Crown being translated was something a long time coming, and I'm so glad that it is here today and improved. Before you get far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, got a Patreon link down below as well. But eadmaster's absolutely taken this project and the fork that he created of it from the original developers, run with it, and given us a Princess Crown that everyone can play and experience today. This is just one of those games. It was absolutely a hidden gem, even if it was only in Japanese, but most people couldn't enjoy it as much as they wanted to, because of course if you didn't read or write Japanese, you'd have no idea what was going on in the story. Now that is 100% completely changed based upon the original patch that I talked about 4 months ago, but that one definitely had a lot of issues. Most importantly, all of the formatting was a little bit wiggly. The text would definitely run off of the text box. Some things would overlap themselves. While you could understand what was going on in English, it was basically just a first draft revision of the translation in and of itself. But now on the 0.85 patch, all of those issues have been completely cleaned up, and the most apparent obviously is the formatting of the text. All of the text is in the text box, it is the proper font, the proper size. It really does look like a professional job, like if this has been translated by a professional translation and development team back when it was new on the Sega Saturn. And that really is the fun part about mods like this. They bring entire new lives to games that we've had for decades. Because again, unless you read Japanese, you'd have no idea what was going on in the story. Sure, you could play the game, you could use a walkthrough, and you could even read some of the story beats online, but it is not the same thing as actually experiencing the story in real time from the game, because this game has a lot of deep lore, a lot of fun jokes inside of it, and just a lot of charm that 100% comes across when you can actually understand the spoken language. Now secondarily, last time I took a look at this game, there was a few instances in which the game would soft lock or freeze, and you'd basically have to play the original Japanese version, save after the soft lock, and then reload the English translation for you to actually get past that point. That is no longer an issue with this, at least on the first couple soft locks that I experienced last time I talked about the game, and I did talk to other people that are actively playing this. They're almost at the end of the game on the new translation. They've had no issues whatsoever as far as the performance. Obviously we're using MiSTer FPGA, but I've tested this on original hardware and on software emulation as well, and it seems to be doing the exact same thing across the board, which is what you would expect between MiSTer FPGA and real Sega Saturn hardware. But for those of you that don't have something like a Saroo cartridge or an optical disc emulator for your Saturn, but you do have MiSTer FPGA, this is an absolutely outstanding way to play the game. You get the best visual quality, the best quality of life improvements, and a translated Princess Crown right on your screen, and that really is what matters. And I would say the translation script here is effectively relaying the emotion going on screen, all of the different story beats and everything else. And again, the formatting being improved in this most recent patch definitely makes a big difference. A lot of other signs have been translated and other bits of text within the actual game itself, because some of those were also presented in Japanese and now have English language options. You'll just see the English text on screen, and that really does matter, because if you're playing Princess Crown and you've gotten this far and it's in Japanese, you probably don't have any idea what's going on. You're just trying to figure it out. The entire story beat here, and this is just preliminary game, is that you're trying to find two children that were lured into the woods, and it was blamed on the fairies, which apparently wasn't true. It is just the intro to the game, but you would have no idea that that was actually going on without this actual translation. And eadmaster bringing this to everyone has been such a huge benefit, because this is the type of game, it was on the list of translations everyone wanted to see as far as Sega Saturn were concerned, and just never actually came to us. There was another one in progress that just kind of seemed to be held up. But this game also has a spectacular soundtrack that sounds great in the core. Listen for 45 seconds and I'll be right back. The game has such an incredible soundtrack as well as so much visual charm. It's got some of the best 2D sprite work on the Sega Saturn in my opinion, and now having a full story translation just allows for that story charm to come across along with the music and the visuals and the gameplay. It becomes the total package, and that's something we didn't have for the longest time. And I understand there's some hurt feelings on the original developer's part that somebody else forked their code and basically ended up finishing up their work, but because of the license and how it was basically put on GitHub, that was totally permissible, and I'm 100% cool with it. That is how these things work, and I know last video people commented on that. It's just what happened, and we should all be happy for it. And again, getting the story in Princess Crown is so much fun. I have played through this game from start to finish on a previous patch, having to kind of navigate around some of those freezes with using the Japanese version, and while it was a little bit cumbersome, it is got a great story, and it was so much fun to finally be able to play the game with a full understanding of what was going on. Now on this most recent patch, it just is so much better. So if you were thinking about holding off on playing this game until it got good enough where you didn't really have any issues with it, now is the time. The 0.8 patch might not be final, but it is good enough where you're going to be able to appreciate and understand absolutely everything in the game, and it's getting really close to the 1.0 patch, so I guess if you want to wait a little bit longer you totally can, but I think now is the time to jump into something like this. And again, on the story front, you'd really have no idea what the princess was doing with the fairy here trying to escape the castle. You would know they were trying to get out, and you would know that the fairy tricked the guard in some way, shape, or form, but you wouldn't have any idea what that was about. You wouldn't know that the fairy was trying to get the princess to go to the village to prove that the fairies didn't kidnap the children like the villagers thought. You'd kind of just have to go into the game making up your own story in your head. And I did play this game a long time ago, maybe halfway through, trying to imagine what was actually going on, and I will say what I presumed to be happening was not at all what actually happens in the game. And that's why fan translations like this are so fundamentally important, not just to retro gaming enjoyment, but also preservation. It allows a gigantic new audience to come in and be able to enjoy the game, and now that the code is here and all of the English translation is here, I'm sure in future years you will see stuff like Spanish translations and French translations come through as well when native speakers decide to take the script, translate it over to their native language, and use the tool set and code to be able to put that language back in. And that is awesome. But leave me comment down below and tell me what's the next Sega Saturn game you'd love to see a translation for. I would be curious. But you'll see here the fairy tricked the guard into getting out of the way so we can escape the castle and basically start the entire adventure. So no matter how you play this game, whether you play it on real Saturn hardware, you play it on software emulation, or you play it on MiSTer FPGA, this translation is just shaping up so well. In my time with it so far in this new version, all of the text formatting was 100% where it needed to be on the boxes, and that's what really matters. And even stuff like these shops, all of the different items, the ability to save, and most importantly to get clues within the environment to understand where to go next, just work. And that's what we really want with translations. But I'm going to do one more soundtrack sample because again, I absolutely love the music. 35 seconds, and I'll be right back with just a little bit more fun. So yeah, Princess Crown is completely in English, all of the formatting is good, the soundtrack's incredible, the 2D art is some of the best you'll see on Sega Saturn, and the most important thing is you're now going to be able to understand exactly what's going on in the game. And because now you don't have to use the Japanese version to bypass some of those soft locks or crashes, and you can play the game from start to finish with no issue, you can basically treat it like an officially released Princess Crown translation, like they had brought it over to North America back in the initial retail run of the Sega Saturn. And that is absolutely something amazing to see, because again, this was probably on the top of most people's wanted Sega translation lists as far as the Saturn is concerned, and it took absolutely forever to get here, but eadmaster took that fork of the GitHub code and basically finished it all up for everyone to enjoy. That is absolutely something to be celebrated. And if you've never played Princess Crown before, there's never been a better time to do it till now. Trust me, it is one of the best games on Sega Saturn, whether we're talking 2D or 3D, and you even get a duck and a frog to go along for the ride. But leave me a comment down below and tell me, have you played this game yet? Are you planning on playing it soon when the patch patch hits 1.0, or are you not interested whatsoever? Because I'm always curious what you guys like to see. But that's about it. I will leave a link to the GitHub below where you can find the patch. You'll have to patch it up yourself, but it is pretty easy. But trust me, you're missing out if you don't play Princess Crown in English. It is just one of the best games on the Sega Saturn, and now with English language support, it makes a whole crap ton more sense compared to just trying to read Japanese when you can't read Japanese. But we are done, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.